Well, today we are hearing from Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear for the first time since a new $31 billion two-year budget landed on his desk. It was passed in Kentucky's House and Senate earlier this week.
And tonight we're taking a closer look at what the budget does for teachers, Medicaid, money coming to Louisville, and some of the governor's critiques.
Kentucky has its new budget if it is signed by Governor Andy Beshear. Thursday, during a news conference, the governor spoke about the $31 billion two-year spending plan that puts around $350 million into a rainy day fund. Beshear's disappointments, reductions of two of his economic development requests, starting with money to prepare industrial sites for new employers.
It included over $70 million for site development to create more of these build-ready, job-ready sites. The General Assembly failed to see that investment in our future as a priority. Their final budget cut that dollar amount by about $20 million.
Beshear says a separate closing fund for large projects was also cut.
I also proposed $100 million for large projects that just need that last bit of infrastructure. We call that the closing fund. The General Assembly cut that by $20 million.
Cuts that aren't in the budget: Veterans Affairs, Medicaid, and teacher retirement, among others. Although the governor and Republicans disagree on how much should be spent on Medicaid. Beshear says when it comes to Kentucky jobs, even small changes will make a difference as the Commonwealth competes with other states.
Every dollar counts when it comes to investing in our future, especially when that future is moving as fast as what we are seeing right now.
Included in the budget, money specifically for Louisville, including millions to revitalize downtown, the zoo, the airport. The governor could veto specific pieces of the budget, but when lawmakers return to Frankfort in a few weeks, they can override those vetoes and lock in Kentucky's spending plan through 2028.